Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm Todd Nesloney, your host, and this is a series of interviews based after my book, Stories from Web, with my whole intention is to find people with these interesting stories and amplify their voices and share them with you in hopes that it helps you be brave enough to share your stories. I'm so excited for my guest this week. I have VJ Stanley. So VJ, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
My name is VJ Stanley. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Balanced Excellence. We also have a subsidiary called Frozen Shorts, which is the charity part of it, and it's for an equal play. Kids have fun, everybody relax, enjoy life.
Awesome. So VJ, tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I played 3 sports in high school. Then I went on to college at the Division I level. I only played 1 game because I got hurt. I had 2 concussions in a week, and they were my 7th and 8th. Went to college with 20/10 vision and left with 200/300. From there, I actually had a diner, and someone asked me, hey, would you want to coach our kids? Because they knew my reputation. So I coached them, and then that led to a high school calling me, and I'm the youngest coach in the history of high school hockey in upstate New York, Rochester, New York. Mm-hmm. And then that led me to college, and then I coached head coach at the college level for 21 years, and then retired. And then people started saying, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? You should write a book about this. So I wrote 1 book, 2 books, 3 books, saw you, and geez, I said, gosh, I think this guy really has something to offer. Maybe we could join and make this place a little better than when we got here.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your books. How did that come about, and what are they about?
Well, I've always written notes. My wonderful wife of 31 years, Katie, would find them in my pockets. And so I kept putting them in a bag and collecting them. And again, people started saying, you really should write a book about that. And I said I had notes. So when I finally decided, it took 3.5 years. And again, a credit to, I love this woman more now than the day I married her. But it took 3.5 years to write the book. And I wrote it longhand. And she typed the whole thing.
Wow.
And yeah, she's phenomenal. And evidently you can type these things, Todd. Who knew? Everybody but me. So the first book is called Stop the Tsunami in Youth Sports, Achieving Balanced Excellence in Health While Embracing the Value of Play for Fun. Then the second one is Less is More, The Truth About Youth and High School Sports. And then the third one that I finished last year, and it's only an ebook, it's 50 pages. The first one was almost 300. The second one was 200. So quietly, I'm understanding that I'm not that smart anymore. And maybe I should condense this. And this third one is called Does Your Mind Mind What You're Doing to Your Body? And this is really what led me to you, because there is now an actual physical connection between the mind and the body that scientists have found, doctors, the strands and everything. And so the balance that we need is right there. And telling that story, we hope, may give somebody the aha moment to say, oh, wait a minute, we can do this.
So did you ever, growing up, think that you would be writing a book?
You could ask any of my English teachers, and they're lucky I got through a 5-page paper.
Right. So where did this idea for the book even come from? I know you mentioned you used to write little notes and stuff, but where did the precipice for that kind of book come from?
Well, my son was 14, and I had all these notes. My son was 14, and he was playing up a level in soccer. And I like to use the expression, I had already taken a couple sips of the Kool-Aid. And what I was trying not to do was order pitchers and shots. So we went to and he was playing up a level, and I was insane. And so we went down to this tournament 6 hours away, and there were 600 kids in the tournament. Now, at that point, I was still a college coach. I'd just done a little bit of scouting for the NHL. But a college coach, if they really want to tell you the truth, it's 80% recruiting. That's college coaching.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at this tournament, And I go to the head tournament, and it was a big Division I showcase. And I said, I'd like to talk to some of the Division I coaches. I coach college hockey. And he goes, oh, you're a college coach. Can you sign in? And I said, yeah, okay. And a couple of people came to me. So I went back to him, and I said, look, I'm a college hockey coach. Oh, okay. So I sent my wife and kids back and to the house, and I stayed to watch the tournament. And it dawned on me as I'm watching this, Todd, that out of these 600 kids, there may be 3 Division I players. So everybody else was just a life support system. Mm-hmm. So we're headed back home, and my wife had a minivan with the video stuff in the back for the kids could watch videos. Right. So I turned them off and turned back to the kids in the rearview mirror and said, we have to talk. Well, they know at that point that Dad's crazy and this is going to be different. And I said, I've got to tell the 2 of you there is no Santa Claus. And of course, my 12-year-old daughter, who was just ready to go into middle school or become the principal, she hadn't decided which one yet, was going to be her gig, said, Dad, we know there's no Santa Claus. And I said, no, there's no athletic scholarships. It's a race that doesn't exist. You need to know this. Just go out and play for fun. And there was the book. And so not ironically, but true to form, my son went back, was the captain of his high school JV team, tied for the lead in scoring, and said to me at the end, Dad, this is the most fun I had because all the pressure is off. So I said, well, if we're going through this, I have all these notes. Why don't I just write a book? And, because I'm male and I'm an idiot, I didn't realize it was going to take 3.5 years. And I didn't realize I mean this to your viewers, and I apologize. I didn't know anything. It never occurred to me to type it. It never occurred to me. And so I wrote it. And of course it was awful, because it was scatterbrained. Again, my wonderful wife typed it. And then we had 8 edits. And finally it came to fruition. I think in 2012, and we self-published. So it really, we sold, I think, 1,000 went out. I'd say we sold like 800 and gave away 200. But we liked giving them away and sending them to people. And we ran out, and the publisher doubled the price of what it was going to cost me. So I don't have any more. And then I started booking for USA Hockey, US Lacrosse. AOSSM is the big surgical group, and to their national conference in Vegas. I was on WFAN in New York City and then in Toronto. So it slowly started to grow. And in the meantime, after I retired, I became a professional stand-up comic. So I was doing the comedy and doing some of this and just kind of getting the whole thing going. And now this is what I do full time.
Sounds like a jack of all trades for sure.
It's been quite a journey. And again, that we say to people, it's all about the journey.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little about what you're doing now.
Well, right now I'm halfway through the 4th book, and we've just put together, we're waiting for the website to get finished. We're going to offer a 3-tiered level for coaches, parents, players, or as they say in Canada, organizations, a guide through a traditional season. We've done some podcasts, we've done a bunch of blogs, we've done many interviews with some professional athletes, some Division I coaches, trainers, doctors. And so we're going to offer a package, and to what we really want is to people to understand it's about balance. Okay, it's not about specialization. If you have a child and they get a cold, well, you give them amoxicillin. You don't take them to a specialist unless they're really sick, because when you go to a specialist, you get special results. Mm-hmm. And that's not what this is. For 99% of the children playing sports, the parents will spend more money than they'll ever get back. So we're not trying to bust dreams. Again, it's the balance. We want you to dream, but keep your foot on the floor. We want you to compete. Want to make sure you have fun. It's, balance is so important. They have it as an Olympic event, the balance beam. And you've never heard anybody say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, I lost my specialization. No, people say I lost my balance. So we try and just teach people that it's internal realization, not external force. I have the tools in the toolbox to give to you, and then you interpret, internalize it, which means then you're modeling it for the kids. And that's how they learn.
Love it. So tell me a little about Frozen Shorts, where that came from.
Frozen Shorts. So now we'll leave my son and go to my daughter. So and my daughter's playing soccer. And so my wife and I, we couldn't sit with the parents. And like 99% of the parents are great. And they mean well, and they try hard, and they want what's best for their kids. That's a fact. But it gets a little crazy on the sideline. And I just didn't, I can't be a part of it. I don't want to be, I'm just not going to be there. So we were sitting at the end of a soccer field, and the refs got to, well, they knew me from coaching college in town, some of them, even though it was hockey, soccer. So I got a little leeway, and I never talked to anybody. I never even cheered for my son out loud. I clapped for a goal or anything. I mean, so they knew everything was good. I wasn't going to break their balls. If you can say that, nothing was, everything's good. So we're sitting down there, and this mom saunters down, and she goes, "I hear you're writing a book." And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Well, I have a story to tell you." Now, at this point, her daughter is a pretty good soccer player. I mean, like at 12. No, Division I college scout is looking at them. But for this thing at this level, she's good. And so she said, "Well, my daughter also plays lacrosse. And we went to a tournament in Syracuse last weekend, which is 90 miles east of Rochester. And it was raining and pouring, and my daughter didn't get off the bench whole tournament."
Wow.
And I said, "Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Thank you for sharing for it." And I thought there was going to be more, but now she was great. And she said, "I just thought you would like to know." And so she turned to walked away. And again, I turned to my wonderful wife, Katie, and I said, "Oh my God, this is, I can't believe this." Now, because of the concussions, I'm sorry this story is so long, but because of the concussions, sometimes at night I get searing headaches. And so I would have to go and lay in another bedroom and put some cloth on. And you can't sleep. So I'm thinking about this. It was just the next night, thinking about this. And my wife at that point was a kindergarten teacher. And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, I got it. I've got it." Now, for you people, men who haven't been married, need to learn from this. From the men who are married, you will know this. If at 1 o'clock in the morning, you think you have this unbelievable idea for a name of a company to help children, and your wife has to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 to get ready to go to kindergarten, it is best not to leave your ribs exposed when you tap her on the shoulder, because immediately, accidentally, the rib will come back and hit you in the ribs. And she said, "What?" And I said, "That's it, honey. Frozen Shorts for all the kids who sit on the bench needlessly." And she's a saint. I love this woman so much. But I got, okay, time for bed. No, time for sleep. And I this is all true. At 6 o'clock in the morning, she was up at 5:30. I got up at 6. I asked her, she didn't remember any of it. So that's where the name Frozen Shorts came from.
And so what are you doing with Frozen Shorts?
Well, that's where we will speak to like a kindergarten class, to a church, to Rotary, to Kiwanis. We'll do that for free to show them. And Frozen Shorts is for all the kids that sit on the bench needlessly. We'll show them how play, like right now, a stat that few people know, 30% of the kids that play youth sports and high school sports do not get the lowest recommended exercise value by the President's Council on Fitness.
Wow.
Because they sit on the bench, and nobody gets better sitting on the bench. Right. And I was fortunate to never have to sit on the bench, but I know what it's like. And so we've spread that word, and then balanced excellence is for the higher level, the high schools, colleges, AOSSM and stuff. But the YMCA is frozen shorts, where they just really need to understand sportsmanship and play for fun.
So what is your ultimate goal with all of this?
Not to be needed. It's the ultimate goal. We may have the only business plan in America with planned obsolescence, but what we want is, again, with my wonderful wife and I just bought a house on the south shore of Lake Ontario, and is to set these 3 different things up, or we're setting them up, and then have people call, be mentored, get advice, and then just like the problem started with people going nuts, people pretending scholarships, people spending all this money, people substituting what they believe to be competitiveness, which is really entitlement, stack a team, play my kid more, pay for play, travel to elite, and get them to understand balance is that there's way more money in non-athletic scholarships than regular scholarships, but also for everybody to have fun and enjoy themselves. So that, the more you enjoy something, the more you're going to want to do it.
I think that's such a valid point because, so often I see so many kids involved in different sporting events where their parents are just going crazy on the sidelines, and it makes it such an unenjoyable experience for the kids. And I don't know how the parents can't see that the kid then begins to hate the sport because their parents acting a fool on the side, or they work so hard at a sport they never actually get to play because, like you mentioned, they may be sitting on the bench the whole time. And I never thought about it from the aspect of that you shared also about how when they are doing all that sitting on the bench, they're not even getting the minimum recommended amount of athletic minutes. And so that's such an interesting thing to think about. I've never even considered that you think you're playing this sport, you're getting all this energy out, and really you're not, because you're not playing because you may not be the star person on the team.
Yeah, and then the other thing that happens is, and this is one of my favorite expressions, well, the kids know their roles. Well, science says the male and female bodies don't fully develop till they're 23, 24, 25. The child who's best at 10, and I don't even like to use the word best, only 10% of them are the best at 18. Puberty changes everything.
Right.
So to say someone is a role player, a bench player, or another one I hear from coaches is, well, they know their role is to make the starters better. No, everybody runs faster when they're being chased. And so if we allow these kids to play, and they will get better, then the team will make the kid better. But what is happening now is there's so much pressure from the parents, so much pressure from the organization on the coach to win, and the coach wants to win, to maintain his status, that they forget about the journey and the development aspect. And they justify only playing these kids a little bit. So now these kids are afraid when they get on the field, court, or ice, they're afraid to make a mistake, so they don't play well. When they do make a mistake, they get pulled, and the starter goes back in. Well, the problem with that is that many coaches don't understand is then the starter is not held to his or her talent level to improve. In other words, even if they make a mistake, which would bench somebody else, they don't. Right. And now I get into the dopamine. Did I send you a copy of my third book?
I don't think so.
All right. I'll do that as soon as we're done here. And so what happens is, whether it's the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, I'm sorry to bore your friends with all the science, your listeners, but what happens is that child, the really good child who is playing and not doing well, subconsciously stops trying to excel. Mm-hmm. Because that's not what the brain has taught them. Because people are competitive by nature. The MLB All-Star Game, where they have the home run derby, they got 40 kids in the outfield, couple of parents for safety. They hit a ball and everybody runs. And I hear people say, well, that's just sports. Okay, I'm going to show you how competitive people are. Black Friday.
That's right.
So what we need to teach is everybody to get along with each other.
Right.
And let the community, and that's what we've lost. We've gone from the community helping, the village raises the child. We've gone from community to me. Right. And every short-term idea, me, has a long-term consequence. Like like your cell phone, our cell phone. It's not really a smartphone, it's an answer phone. So now the children have confused answers and knowledge, and that's scary.
Yeah. So, VJ, in closing, if there was one piece of advice that you would offer to parents or families, what would that be?
Play my kid more than your kid. Sorry. The most important thing, without question, is when you son or daughter is involved in sports. You're on the way to the game. Kids fear this on the ride there and the ride back. When you're on the way to the game, I hope you have fun. On the way home, I love you. That's it. Their performance has, no matter how much you paid, has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Those two things, that's it.
I think that is brilliant to have that be the advice, to have that conversation in the car on the way there and on the way home. It's so simple and easy. Well, VJ, I appreciate you so much for giving some of your time today and coming on and sharing a piece of your story with my listeners. So thank you so much for coming on.
Todd, thank you very much for having us.
And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Tell Your Story. Don't forget that you need to get out there and be brave enough to tell yours, because every story matters. Have a great night, everybody.